Olasukomi Adenuga is a solution-focused executive with a comprehensive background in management consulting, executive team leadership, strategy development, and business growth. He is an experienced education and learning professional with over 20 years of documented contributions in providing superior results. Please, let's join our hands together as we welcome this L&D guru, Deputy Country Manager at British Council, Nigeria, where he was responsible for providing strategic professional leadership. He subsequently moved on to Lagos Business School, assuming a position where he had responsibility for developing country and regional business expansion. All very serious. Olasukomi is an alumnus of University of Lagos, Warwick Business School, Great Akokites, Crownfield School of Management and Business School. One more time, can you put your hands together for our distinguished panelists? Okay, so before I move on, like my other panelists said, what do you do for fun?
Okay, Mike's side. For fun, love sports. I think right now I'm also yes. But I also rate photography.
Okay. Can we put our hands together? L&D people are fun people. We're not all just serious. So Moyosore Ola Oludia is a senior manager at PwC Nigeria. She oversees the PwC Business School, which offers training on key subjects to keep professionals abreast with the trends and developments in the market. She has 13 years experience in human capital development, specializing in learning and talent management. You're welcome, Moyo. What does Moyo do for fun?
Thank you. Okay. For fun, I do stage plays.
You're in the right hall.
Yeah, I'm very used to this hall. And then I have a podcast. I record podcasts, and then I love to shop.
Wow. Okay. Olasukomi Esther Amoye, doctor. Olasukomi Esther Amoye is an experienced L&D consultant with a demonstrated history of working in the management consulting, banking, insurance, and non-profit industries. She's skilled in negotiation, networking, relationship management, team building, talent management, employee management, policy design and development. Are you clapping? Competency design, organizational development, recruitment and selection, job evaluation, job profile assessment and analysis, testing, succession planning. She's an embodiment of learning. Can you please put your hands together for the distinguished doctor? Ma'am, what do you do for fun?
Okay, thank you very much. For fun, I love to do exercise. I love to go on dancing expeditions with my children. Just dance and we do exercise a lot. Because I'm always struggling, trying to be like Awele somewhere here.
Wow. Let me introduce the last but not the least person. Oludare Shobajo. Oludare is a performance and talent management professional with over 15 years work experience spanning different key sectors of the Nigerian economy, and across the various focus areas of human resource management. He's currently the group head, human capital management at ARM Holdings Company, head of performance and talent management at Sterling Bank PLC. He's an associate member of CIPM, a certified, this caught me, balance scorecard professional, a certified SPHRI and Hay Group certified job evaluator. Please, can you put your hands together for the wonderful people on the panel? This afternoon, we'll be discussing upskilling and reskilling the workforce. Unlike the other panel, I perceive that there's a lot of challenges. We've come here with a lot of challenges. We've come here with problems that we want solved. So I would ask 2 questions just to get the conversation going, and then I'll go to the audience so you can ask your questions. Is that fine? In my company, we always do nice, nice, and so I will do that with us. If I say nice, nice, you say nice. What company is that? Thank you. So nice, nice. Okay, so we'll be starting. Upskilling and reskilling. How does that affect L&D? Especially in these times. I'll be starting with the doctor. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Want me to switch? Okay. Is it okay to go ahead with this? All right. So upskilling and reskilling, of course, we know there are 2 different things. And when it comes to upskilling, you're simply just trying to move your talents, your competencies forward in preparation for something higher in your role or capacity of whatever it is you're doing. While reskilling is simply moving out of where you are to another field. So for L&D function, we need to understand the business, right? We need to have a good understanding of the business, the strategic goals of the business, the competencies required, like the former panelists have talked about, is really important. And then how do we journey with people to ensure that their career paths, is just not just clearly defined, that they have all they need to be able to journey and be better. And if they want to move out of the lane, like I put it, you can cross. I tell people that you can cross lanes, but just make sure you have it. Because when you're reskilling, it's not as easy as when you're upskilling. When you're reskilling, for some of us in organizations, you're still expected to do your core job. And you're trying to move into another space and then acquire all the skills. So for us in this profession is for us to understand the people. We talked about learning styles, what is best for them, the business, what does the business want to achieve? How can I ensure that the business does not suffer while you are upskilling and reskilling? Because that's the concern of the CEO. I don't want us to lose money, and I still want us to be able to, train our people. So that I think for me is important that we are able to manage that and support our people so that the business does not suffer and then our people get the best from that experience. Thank you.
Moya.
All right, thank you. Upskilling and reskilling. I think it goes beyond just delivering content. One of the things that we need to think about when thinking about upskilling and reskilling, Dr. had already, given a brief definition of what each is to look at where the business is going. So where is my organization going? Where are we, where do we see ourselves in the next 2 to 3 years or even now? What kind of skills do we need at that time? And then how do we address the gaps? What do we need to do to address, those gaps? And what is core panel session where I talked about that is practice. Okay, so upskilling and reskilling is not necessarily just about, acquiring knowledge, okay, even though it is part of it, but it also the ability for, the employee to be able to apply the knowledge or practice what they have learned to be able to meet, with the future demands of the business. So I'll just stop at those 2 points for now.
Okay. You're not clapping. Thank you. So let's just dive into it. The first session that was taken by Oliver, we saw that the major challenge for L&D effectiveness right now is time. So I would say, how can organizations balance the need for upskilling and reskilling with the demands of our day-to-day job? We need that time. We need people to be productive. We need line managers to be able to allow people go for sessions. How do we balance this in the need to upskill and reskill? Alasko.
Okay, thank you very much. I think one of the first things to look at when we look at balancing time, the ability of people within the organizations to learn. First and foremost, I'll just raise a premise. If we learned anything, 2020 happened very quickly. And if we recall the events of 2020, it was really like going round the bend, and then you were just hit bang in the face. Because none of us expected what happened during COVID. And what did that now trigger? It triggered the need for people to begin to learn very quickly. Learning styles began to change rapidly. And then people would, organizations were now creating avenues for people to reskill and upskill. Now, how do we connect that with time? You now have to sort of connect that back to earlier when we were talking about learning styles. Technology has allowed, in a great way, how we integrate learning with work. So people are learning in more bit-sized formats where they needn't have to leave work to acquire new skills. Organizations are leveraging a lot more learning experience platforms where you can integrate that into sort of the organizational ERP. So in the middle of work, you have more function-relevant learning that it could take in short bites. So videos, they create communities within the workplace where people can do some peer learning. So, and what we need to get to is the point where we should understand that learning is not necessarily when you have to remove everyone from work and put them into a room for learning to take place. So there's that confusion, and I often say this where people talk about training. Well, training is the event. Learning occurs progressively. So every interaction you have in the space of work is a learning opportunity. And earlier on, some of the panelists alluded to the fact that you could run internal KSS sessions. You could have leadership begin to deliver sessions where it's built into their KPIs to deliver learning. So they're having a meeting and the person cuts out the time of 10 minutes within the meeting to transfer some degree of knowledge. And those touch points over time within organizations are opportunities to learn. So in the flow of work, and when you even understand the concept of flow, people learn and absorb knowledge in that unconscious state of work where they are in and within the interactions they have with people. So that can be built in. There's no loss of productivity on the employee, and there's acquisition of learning that they can continue to apply on the job.
Amazing insights. Dr. Shivaji, your thoughts?
I mean, what else can I add to that? My guy, the top has said it all. But I think the most important points that he raised, which I resonate strongly, is the question assumes that learning is a separate activity from work, right? And it is work. Because for you to be able to do what you do, you have to understand it and over time learn from doing it and continue to do it and improve at it and then do other things. So it's work is learning. So if you have time to work, you have time to learn, right? And I think that's it really. As much as you're doing, because it all boils down to what you do, behavior, what you do. And at the end of the day, as you're evolving, over time, you're learning. It's like you get into a job. You've been hired to do a job based on your experience. But that day one, of course, everything is overwhelming. You're understanding the business, the culture, everything. But you realize that 2 months down the line, 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, all of those things that were overwhelming has become BAU. That's because you've learned doing the work. So it's not a separate activity. And that's why the previous conversation about culture is very important, because you have to adopt that culture as you work, because that's what guarantees profitability and that's what guarantees sustainability.
Can I please ask? Okay, I think it was Jumoke that talked about the 70-20-10 principle, and the bulk of the 70% is really learning on the job. And so you really cannot separate work from learning, just like he said. And this goes to line managers as well, and even to the employees, that when you see work as an opportunity for learning and growth, then it is no longer work. It then becomes learning. So giving people the opportunity to do challenging type of work and allowing them to be able to, sort of make choices as to the kind of work that they want to do wouldn't make it look like work, but daily they would see themselves coming to work to learn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Amazing thoughts. Taking from Moya's perspective, let me ask this question. How can organizations build a culture of curiosity and learning agility to support these upskilling efforts? How can you enable that environment? How can you create that environment, push people, just give them the needed push? How can we do that? Doctor, would you like to jump on that?
All right. I was thinking you'd flip it this time around. Well, so I was lost in the cloud. Thank you. I think the first things for me would be to allow them to fail. Give room for people to make mistakes and fail. People get caught up in fear, right? And don't try new things. When a culture does not permit me to be able to bring in something, you see a lot of businesses that I've consulted for in the past few years, you find that people have ideas and knowledge from outside the job that they apply on the job. But in some cases, they're afraid of even bringing those things in because the environment does not permit them. You will see people doing fantastic things outside, but when they are at work, they are tailor-jacketed. So they are not willing to do. So the environment should allow them, do it and let us even fail. And then you can learn from it. When this happens, you find that you will see different things. And so the fear of businesses will be, this is not how we do it. They're going to change our way, our culture. No. If a business wants to promote the learning culture, you need to allow people to express themselves, especially because of the work mix, the generational mix we have in the workplace today. Everybody brings something to the table and it's different. So allow them to be able to express themselves, and then you see the value that they have to bring. That's one of the things I think is key.
Amazing.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. But one thing that I also wanted to add, when you're looking at it, curiosity, respect, and in my own experience, having been working with quite a lot of people, I always build learning on 5 principles, and I call them the 5 C's. So you look at creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and curiosity. I think those principles really underpin everything about learning and how people grow. Now, for anyone who is within an organization, one thing is only people who are of inferior ability should always believe that they are their best. Now, you must always be curious, and you should ask yourself 2 questions when you're curious. How can I get better at what I do, and what do I need to learn to get better at what I do? So as long as everyone continues to ask that question, and the organization can also drive it in such a way that you continue to push people to get better and become more aspirational let them see opportunity, that opportunity does exist for them to aspire to senior positions, and show example of where people have done it. But they only achieve those positions because they learned something new, they acquired new skills, they got new knowledge, or they got better. That way people begin to get curious, they begin to seek for knowledge themselves without waiting for the organization to establish some developmental program. So I think that's really important.
Okay. So I will take it from another angle and say, firstly, people are interested in, what appeals to them, right? And for you to get people connected, I think knowledge is key, which means that everybody within the organization needs to understand and know what we're in, what we're doing, what does the future hold, and how are we going to get there. I think that's where the connection comes. So learning, yes, but I have to know that this is where the organization is headed, and I need to know what's in it for me before I decide to connect that and do what is necessary to get there, both for myself and for the organization. And that's where culture comes in, and that emotional connection with the organization, and I am doing what is necessary, not just for today but for tomorrow, right? And that's where it now becomes natural in it to begin to do what it takes to be able to get there quickly, because I know that when the organization gets there, I get there. So I think knowledge, involvement, and getting that emotional connection is what is really key to bring about that desire to want to learn and contribute and grow.
Amazing. Are you getting value?
Can I?
Are you getting value? Okay, yes, please. Immediately after her, please get your questions ready. We'll dive into the audience.
Just to write on what he said in terms of culture, okay? Culture is very, very key because if there's no enabling environment for people to be curious, they would just keep it. If I don't have the opportunity to be able to share and collaborate and, give my thoughts, about things and all of that, then I wouldn't. So for example, for us, one of our values is reimagine the possible. So you can't be in PwC and then you're there and it's about status quo. No, you have to change the status quo. You have to get to a place and meet, and take it, change the way things have been, make a difference. Okay, so there has to be that enabling environment. We need to be able to allow people to be themselves, to be their authentic selves, when they're at work, so that, they can be curious and they can share. Another thing that, would work in terms of curiosity would be creating spaces. So we talked about community at, I think, the previous panel. Creating spaces where people can actually share. So, for example, you worked on something and, for example, I think Oliver shared how he was able to use ChatGPT and all of that. You have a community or a space where people can actually share those kind of things. And so you have a knowledge base, okay? And people can actually leverage on some of those information to be able to get their work and to be able to do better. So creating that enabling environment, creating, that space for people to be able to share and collaborate, and then ensuring that your culture supports curiosity. Thank you.
Amazing.
Right? So we created an opportunity for the people who were not on the project to actually run through. One, there was a knowledge sharing session, first and foremost, to just even let you understand the general idea behind this project, right? And then give you the task in phases of what needs to happen, and then you go and create the experience. You go and let us have your journey plan, of each phase, what you would do. And then we'll come back. So we had sessions like up to 4 or 5 times before the people who were not on the job could deliver as though they were on the project. Right? So you heard about internal consulting. So we make them entrepreneurs. Go and deliver, go and do this, work this out, solve this. Not on the job. When I say fail, not necessarily fail on the job all the time. But if I'm going to give you something and I'm on the project, I'm going to give you something that if you fail, when I close my eyes, I can quickly fix it. But I want you to learn and fail. I want to give you something, come back and give me. I don't mind my weekends, I'll do it. But I want to see what you can do, because you see, that 70% we're talking about is about you doing it. It's not about you hearing it. It's not about somebody telling you. It's about you doing it hands-on. And the only way you can know if you can do it better next time is to do it, and then you say, oh, you know what, there's something here. There was a lot of people know Bayo Akisaya. Is that Akisaya Adesanya now? Bayo Adesanya. He showed me a document years ago, and he said, look at at his level. And he was using it to train. He said, look at all the red marks that CW, Campbell, White, I worked with them, put on his proposal. So don't tell me when I'm sending you back several times that I'm being tough on you. But there's no one who's done proposal with him or done strategy work with Bayo, that they are not shining anywhere they are today. So you would give them things that they can work on their time. Now, that curiosity and desire to now improve or to do is left to the person. But at least this is the way and the how of creating those opportunities for people to test their hands on things and go back. You can also tie it to the appraisal. I give you the number of times you finish a job, to time, is this way. Even if it's not formal, if HR combines with if it's not, then you tie it into, our monthly sessions. If you don't deliver on this, that is it. And then you find that people come up and they get better.
Expressing themselves.
Yes. So what should they do to help these employees in order to upskill and reskill them? Because they're usually scared to express themselves. They don't want to get sacked. So what should they do?
Okay, thank you for that. So this is construction environment, isn't it? Yeah. So I did some job for manufacturing and construction, so I understand what you're saying. Now the thing is, that's not your everyday corporate environment. It's not. So you can't put on the hat of your regular. You can get ideas, but you need to do something different, as you've been told when it comes to learning, right? Some of the times you need to break, through the ranks, right? Make them your friend. Because the truth is, these people we're all human, isn't it? We're only privileged to be where we are and not be, anybody could have been, in fact, there are lots of bats here flying, you're just not in Aso Rock, So anybody could be in Aso Rock tomorrow, right? Yeah, there are lots of, if my husband said bats has flown into Aso Rock. I said, what do you mean? So there are lots of bats here, but you're just not currently in Aso Rock. So what that means is that all those people have something, right? They have plans. Let me borrow from an experience I had. When I told Mr. Phillips, I was in Phillips Consulting for almost 11 years, left last year. When I told him I was moving a few years ago from learning consulting to people transformation, he was like, Esther, you know what? If we don't allow you to move in, you'll move out. So a lot of people are there who have ideas and plans. They are seeing something that somebody is doing, they want to move in there, or they are friends with those people. I worked closely, when I was in learning, I was close friends with people in strategy and people transformation. So that's always been an area of passion for me. So I bring that thinking into what I'm doing. So you have to break the ranks and be their friend. Make it easy for them to speak with you. Identify champions amongst their managers, right? That can be your foot soldiers, because these are not all the managers that are approachable. All the things we're talking about here, if you meet some managers, is a ceiling wall, is a brick wall. You can't break through. You can't reskill. No, you have to stay there, right? But if you meet some managers, they give you the freedom to test new things. So you need to identify the managers and supervisors that will give them that room, and then they can be your foot soldiers. But you have to do it differently. You can't go through what policy, and the letter of the word is there, the spirit is there. So you have to become the spirit of what you want to achieve. Thank you.
How do we sustain upskilling and reskilling efforts in the midst of a shrinking workforce where organizations are pressing towards having more leaner organizations and more leaner structures? So that's one. Then also, this isn't Also, I wanted to ask in terms of thoughts how we deal with, because there was something that I noticed, particularly during the COVID period. There was some form of what we call learning fatigue. I would like to explain that because of the upsurge of webinars, we got to the point where people started to feel like, oh, not another webinar. So how do we deal with those kind of things when we start to experience them amongst our workforce, where it's like there's that learning fatigue that's starting to show up every now and then? So I think I'll direct this question to Mr. Oludare Shobajo, and then anyone else who wants to contribute could do so. Thank you.
I think it's important for you to understand what appeals and fashion your learning interventions around those things. And for the workforce of today, where we have a lot more, there's a shorter attention span, and there are more interests in creatives and visuals and gamification. I think you can make learning fun in a way that, appeals. I'm someone that, God knows that if you send me for a training and you send reading material before, I will not read. I will get into the class, I will wait for somebody to start talking about it, and then I will continue from where you are, and then, take it up from there. So I think it's important that you connect with your audience in a way that suits them. And the only way you can do that is to interact, connect, engage, and evolve over time. Recognizing that today, I might be in a good mood to watch a video, and tomorrow I might not, right? That's the second question. The first question, remind me please.
So how do we sustain upskilling and reskilling in the midst of
I think
leaner
it's,
workforces?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's even more important in these times as against where there's a luxury of, people and resources. And a way to do that, again, you can't take away, that connection, the relationship and networks, because it has to be that I see what's in it for me to be able to dedicate. And it goes back to what I said initially about being involved, being aware, and knowing what's in it for me, right? And it becomes clear that because things are a lot more challenging, because things are a lot more challenging is the word really, because things are a lot more challenging, it even becomes a lot more important for me to earn my seat at the table to bring that value. And the only way I can bring that value is by learning, right? Recognizing that in this day and age, what stands you out is your ability to move from one level of growth to the other, right? And it becomes clear that for me to remain in an organization that is shrinking, it means that I'm having to up my game and giving employees the opportunity to learn even outside the interventions that you create, right? Constantly making, the work enjoyable and challenging, and looking forward to that next level will what we guarantee. So it's not just the organization's responsibility to train, but the individual themselves recognize that it's either I do this or I'm out of a job. Thank you.
Okay, right. So webinars are going to be coming up again because we talked about it a few days ago. With the high cost of, a lot of things right now in the workplace, people, training is going to be impacted, right? That's part of what we're talking about today. So you are going to see a lot of people come up to say, let's give them for free, let's give them for free. Don't go and eat free food that is not relevant to where you're going. That's the first thing. The second thing is in terms of just about how we do and sustain learning in the organization and time. See, you spend time in between work, gisting and talking. Make those things learning engagements. Just 5 minutes of, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. How can I get it done? You don't have to be in a classroom. If you don't have coaching program in your organization, initiate it or talk to people about it. Adopt a coach. It doesn't have to be, so it's not like you are taking a chunk of your day out of it. You can, I have people, there was somebody I sent something to, I had not met him, but we were in a group together, and I had a challenge with one job I was working on, and most of the people in my organization, didn't have the time, but I knew I needed to know this thing, so I just sent him a chat, boss, sorry, I want this, I don't know if you have the time. Do you know what, he sent me a resource from another, that helped me with a case study, with giving Nigerian and Canadian perspective to that problem. So please, don't be rigid about it. Build it into how you live your life on a daily basis. Learning is continuous. Thank you. So, for me, in terms of upskilling and reskilling, the key thing, or this key skill I feel you need to have, every one of us here, is the ability to analyze and understand trends, right? If you're stuck where you are for the next 5 years, where would you be? Where would it land you? So you need to understand where your business is going, where your profession is going, other areas of interest that you have, be able to understand the trends. What's the market saying? What's the business environment saying? What are the key skills that will be relevant, so that, in a few years' time, I'm not saying, you know what, I used to be, so that's it for me.
Change is happening rather rapidly. So as L&D professionals, we must be ahead of the curve and be able to think around corners, if I can say that. So begin to think of what are the skills you need today, and also the skills your organization is going to need for the future. So be curious about what's going to happen. Within this environment, a lot of things have happened in the last week. How is that going to impact our business? If this happens, how do we respond? And create scenarios that would allow you begin to identify the skill requirement internally, or if there are people who are already at a 50% level that you can use to bridge those potential skill gaps that may occur. So curiosity and creativity would be it for me.
I think it's time for HR professionals and L&D professionals to be a lot more humble. I think it's time for us to get off our high horse and really recognize that we're servants to our people. And, be able to listen, establish the relationships, and like Jumoke said, you don't know it all. Thank you.
Okay, I think for me, I would say influencing skills, and I would liken it to, someone who has a product to sell. So as L&D practitioners, we have solutions, so to speak, even for the business. How do we influence, the learners? How do we influence the business to be able to adopt whatever it is that we're selling? So we need to, grow our influencing skills. How do you communicate? How do you send those emails that will make people read, stop what they're doing and, go to it and read it? How do you share those learning? How do you tell them to go onto your learning experience center to take a particular e-learn, and they'll be interested in doing that even in their busy time. So it's important for us to be able to learn how to influence through good communication.
We want to see how we can continue to create and add value to our businesses. So first and foremost, I think you must know your businesses. Know the business so well in such a way that you can know the point where you can add value. Also, love the business. You cannot create value in a place where you do not genuinely love. And lastly, speak the language of the business. That's the only thing that's going to make you excel and succeed with L&D initiatives. Thank you.